Hi, everybody. I'm Jeremy Foster here to talk about the Frontline Worker Index with Talroo. Going to share a little bit about what we're seeing in some of the data. We'll be very transparent about what actually is hard data, as well as some of the potential skews in the data within our data set. And then we'll also talk about a few conclusions, some of which I think are very well supported, some of which are a little more hypothetical, but at least supported by the trends on the data. So right out of the data, for the first time in 5 months, we saw a significant increase in resume postings while job postings declined. A lot of times that can mean that we're starting to see some shifts in supply and demand of labor. It is also possible as we kind of come up on the end of the year and coming into an election season and all of these other things that people are really starting to think about what they want to do with their lives, and people may be more in an exploratory mode, but we have seen a noticeable change in that kind of balance between people looking for jobs by posting resumes and companies looking for workers by posting jobs. Wages do continue to rise, especially in healthcare. And we'll talk a little bit more about some specific changes that we're seeing within healthcare. But we're seeing increases in hourly pay. We're seeing increases in sign-on bonuses. We're also starting to see more full-time roles, and part-time opportunities are beginning to decline. And that may also be a stabilization factor as companies have worked through over the course of the last couple of years, kind of what their volume, what their need for labor is going to look like. It's normal. Part-time opportunities are beginning to decline, and that more consolidation to start to pull that into a more stable kind of go forward model with full-time staffing. We are continuing to see, I should say, return to office. Remote work overall is down, but we're also seeing that, particularly in sectors where either the roles can be handled more easily remote. I would suspect that we don't have data around this, that some of it may also be correlated to roles where activity can be more clearly tracked remotely. In some industries like hospitality and retail, we are starting to see more flexibility in some of those roles and an increase in remote roles. When we kind of look specifically into a couple of these sectors, healthcare is one of the most meaningful outliers versus some of the other data. Within our data set, we're pretty heavily influenced by kind of the allied health sector. And a lot of that is RNs. And so we're seeing a significantly higher hourly wage than in other industries. And arguably, it's kind of debatable whether you'd consider RNs frontline workers, but we do have that data, and we see that wage for that sector coming in at $39.17 an hour. This is a pretty significant increase. It's about $7.78 year over year. But we did see a pretty meaningful dip this month. So month over month, it's down by $6.62. And I'll talk a little bit about the fact that, there may be some changes structurally in the work and the type of work that healthcare companies, hospitals, et cetera, are allocating to nurses versus to, for example, CNAs, because we see exactly kind of the opposite trend when we exclude allied health. When we exclude allied health, the average hourly wage is lower. It's $18.72. That is up slightly year over year at 41 cents, but it's up a lot month over month. It's up $1. And so when we kind of see pretty meaningful drop in one area and an increase in another, that is potentially a substitute good in certain functions or capacities, it may be that hospitals are trying to find ways, because nurses have gotten so much more expensive over the course of the last year. Some of those hospitals may be trying to figure out how to make those roles a little bit more specialized. And so that, again, we have no data to confirm that, but that's a logical conclusion from the trend data that we're seeing. Overall, we're seeing increases in sign-on bonuses, up $584 year over year. We also do see what is almost certainly a kind of a seasonality factor with a lot of kind of blitz hiring at a $2,000 month-over-month increase in sign-on bonuses among some of these other sectors, which is really likely preparing for the holiday season. When we start looking at kind of logistics, retail, warehousing, and trucking, it's pretty common for us to see substantial increases in pay as well as sign-on bonuses right around this time every year. So the number of companies offering a bonus rose 0.5% year over year, but it dropped month over month. So we're really not seeing a strong enough trend that we'd say that it's a kind of an overall pattern to be offering more bonuses. It's relatively stable, relatively steady, other than some of the seasonal hiring that we might be seeing. There's no degree required index that continues to decline. In other words, the number of jobs or the percentage of jobs that don't require a degree, again, in our data set, has dropped 10 points year over year, has risen 5 points month over month. Again, a lot of that is probably those warehouse worker jobs. And as we look at kind of those warehouse worker roles, that can be, again, a seasonal trend. But overall, the trend seems to be that companies are going back to requiring degrees on more roles. The part-time index, again, continues to drop, down 40 points year over year, 11 points month over month. Full-time index is up 8 points year over year, 4 points month over month. Resumes are up 53 points and postings are down 80 points. So pretty substantial drop. And it's really the first time in the last 5 months we've kind of seen this swing. And so, again, we don't have great information on why so many more people are looking for roles, but it may also be tied into that kind of consolidation function as businesses have started to kind of stabilize both the number of roles they plan to fill and the employees they plan to fill those roles with. One other notable trend from our key analyst is that we are seeing a significant increase in hiring needs for retail loss prevention. Again, some of that may be seasonal as people try to figure out how they're going to get people Christmas presents or the presents for the holiday of your choice. But we really are definitely seeing kind of a swing in that. And then again, we see a pretty substantial increase in warehouse and logistics operations wages. So all in all, a lot of this is what we would have expected to see seasonally. The longer term trends really are things like less remote work overall, but more remote work in hospitality and retail. We are seeing more full-time activity and less part-time activity, which again kind of indicates a more stabilized work environment. And as employers have kind of figured out again which roles they're going to fill and who's going to fill them. And then, we do continue to see high demand for healthcare in both hourly pay and sign-on bonuses. So those are kind of the big trends for September. All right, appreciate your time. Hope it was helpful, and we will talk to you next month.